the program while you are a new learner. While you are new to the programming, how you are supposed to understand. The basic problem with the programming is we don't understand what we are writing. We simply make an attempt of writing the program. Without knowing the requirement, without knowing what is the data used, without knowing what we are supposed to yield, we make an attempt of writing a program. When somebody asks you to write a program, void main start. Next what? Advanced we may put integer age or string name. Okay. This is how our programming languages are being taught. Right. Now, when you want to write a program, 70% of the programming is understanding the requirement, analyzing what is the data involved, analyzing what is the source of the data, what data need to be calculated, what data need to be output. This is 70% of your programming knowledge. 30% is writing a code. 30% is only a coding when you are running a programming. When you want to write a programming, 70% deals with understanding the requirement, knowing what is the data involved, from where the source of the data is coming, what are the values that are given by the user or calculated by the system, what I was supposed to yield. If you make this understanding first, remaining 30% will be easy for you. If you try to learn 30%, that becomes difficult for you to write a program. That is how the programming, when you go with making a self-practice, you understand the program in the class, when you start writing a program from your end, you don't understand how to write it. But every program we explain in the class, you'll follow it. But remaining, you'll not be able to understand because you're not doing the analysis of the requirement. So first you are supposed to understand the requirement analyzations. How to understand the requirement, how to analyze what is the data involved, what is the data that is calculated or given by the system. Okay. Let us do some basic examples for this. Right. Now let us say the first example. What is the statement first? Statement. What is this? Statement is a expression line in a program that performs statement is a expression or a line in the program that performs some logic or an action. Right. Example. Every statement ends with semicolon. Every statement ends with a semicolon. You write like end with semicolon. Now, look at the format. I have a requirement like this. When I have a requirement, I went to a shop. They asked me, what is the price of the book? What is the price of the book? He told it's rupees 2000. He asked me, how many books you want? Five. What is okay, any discount? Anyone who is new to the programming, you are supposed to understand the programming in this format. 10% of total amount. Finally, what is the amount I have to pay? This is how some conversation went between the shopkeeper and me. Now, if you want to convert this conversation in the form of programming, you want to understand this conversation in the form of a programming. So, if you want to understand this programming, first, what is the data involved? What is the data involved? Okay, price of the book, book price, then number of books, then we have some total, then we have, right, okay. Now in this, what is the source of the data? Book price calculated by the system or you are giving? We are supposed to give the input. Number of books, system is going to enter or you are going to give it? We have to give it as input. Now total, you are going to give it as system is going to calculate. System is, right, system. Please communicate with the admin people, boss. Right. System. System is going to calculate. When system is going to calculate, what is the formula that they have? Number of books into book. What is the expression? When you say system calculate, how the system is going to calculate? Then we have discount. System is going to calculate. I told 10% off. Then final price. What is the final amount we have to pay? Some latest amount. Now we are going to calculate, our system is going to calculate. System. When is a system? Now, first, when you have a requirement, understand what is the data involved. So until you get comfort zone, this is the way you are supposed to analyze it. So once you get into the comfort zone, you can straight away write it. But initially, this is the way you are supposed to learn when you are new to the programming. What is the data involved? Then this data, who is going to provide this data? Which data is calculated by the system? Now when you say data is involved, price, what type of data is this? I can take, what was that? Rupees. If I take it like this, it should be what? Decimal. Number of books, they told 5, integer. Total decimal into integer is going to come as decimal. Decimal amount is also decimal. Now, what is the data involved? What type of data is this? Who is going to provide the data? Which values are going to be calculated by the system? Which values are going to be calculated by the system? Which values are going to be calculated by the system? Then, in this case, I am giving here decimal. Now, what are the variables we have? Book price, total, discount, integer. This is what we are taking. So we are taking book price. We have created a variables. What is the data type in this? Decimal is the data type. Book price, total, discount amount is the variables. Integer is the data type. Number of books is the. If you don't assign the value, what is the value we are going to get? Default value is null. Until I assign the value, default value is null. Total number of books. Then I had a discount. What is the discount we gave? Total into 10% of total amount. Amount is total minus This is how we are writing the program. Your programming is nothing but a 5th class mathematics, not beyond that. So if you pass your 5th class without copying, you know how to write a program. As simple as that. Now if you look at this, it's all deal with a mathematical operations. A simple mathematical operation and a few if-else logics. Now it is a basic, simple, arithmetic operation with a simple logics. But only the point is, this becomes difficult for you if you don't understand this. Without understanding this, if you make an attempt of writing this, it becomes a complex for you. The programming is becoming complex. You directly make an attempt to write this without understanding this. That is how the programming has become difficult. Otherwise, it is simple mathematical calculations of additions and subtractions. Anything else we have used here? Right? Anything else we have used here? Simple mathematical calculation. If you know what formula you have to write, you have to know what data you have to take, then rest of the program becomes a simple for you. This is how the new developers, when you are new to the development, this is how you are supposed to analyze and write it. That the people who are comfortable with the programming, I am not speaking to you. Right? The people who are very new to the programming, you are learning the programming from the scratch. This is the way you are supposed to make an attempt of it. Okay, boss. I hope you are good with this. Right. Let us go to the next.
Satish,
Yes.
sorry, I just joined late. So, what's the topic today you are covering?
Statements.
Okay.
Now, let us go to the next example. So, let us take the next example here. Now, create this example. So, this is the conversation what I had. Looking at this conversation, identify the data what we are going to use. Looking at this conversation, identify the data what we are going to use. What will be the data type of the data? Then who is going to give the input? What are the calculations involved? Make an attempt of writing this. Don't write the program. The people who are new to the program, don't make an attempt of writing the program straight away. First, write the source of the data. The people who are very new to the programming, you are supposed to write the program with the source. Don't straight away write the program. People who are learning the program for the first time, don't straight away write the program like this. First, put this requirement. Put the requirements. Based on the data what I have given, identify what is the data involved, what is the data type for the data, then what is the source. Is the system is going to calculate or you are going to enter? If system is going to calculate, what is the expression? People who are new to the programming, make an attempt. Right. So data source. What is the data involved here? Name, age we have, and we have course name, fee, GST. No. Name is going to be which format? Age. Now you have to say, you have to tell by looking at this data. Don't. Course name I have given. Fees, integer. I have not given 00. I have given only integer value here. So based on that value, you have to take. Now 18% of this amount, there is a possibility of decimal. Total price. Now
Yes, I
What is
think
this? Yeah.
age should be integer.
Which one? Now I'm
Age
into
should be
calculation because I'm calculating. What was that? Age. Now, right. Who is going to provide this data? We are providing age. We are providing course name. We are providing fee. We are providing. Then we have GST. System is calculating. Then total price. System is calculating. So, what is the requirement? What is the data involved? What is the format of the data that is involved? Now, who is going to enter the data or which is calculated by the system? If it is calculated by the system, what is the formula we are using here or what is the logic we are using to calculate? Then make an attempt of writing a program. Now, what is the format here? String, name, course, integer, age, decimal, GST. Then I have taken here name. Why I have given within the single quotes? Any string we give within the single quotes. Then age we have given. Only string values are within the single quotes. Then we have course name. Then we have GST fee into 18%. Okay. Total price. Is that what's clear, boss? So understand the requirement, know what is the data involved, what is the format of the data involved, who is going to provide the input, what values are calculated with the system. Is that what's clear? So making a quick statements, making the quick statements here. Right. The next, don't copy the programs, make an attempt of writing. If you are not followed, we can take 2 more examples on it. You will learn the programming only when you stop copying the program. I'm making very clear. Program, if you copy, there's no use. Whatever the examples I'm giving you, it will not make you developer. If you make an attempt of writing it, you will become a developer. By simply sitting in the class, observing program what I'm writing, you will not get the 3 years or 4 years of experience. You are supposed to make an attempt of writing. Now you write an attempt. If you're not followed, we'll take 2 or 3 examples more, no issue. But you have to make an attempt of writing the program. Now I'm writing the code to cross check. I want you to cross check after writing it, not for copying it. I'm making very clear. Boss, if you copy my programs or practice the same examples what I'm giving, you will not become a developer. You're supposed to make an attempt from your end. Make an attempt of writing, okay, then cross check with my programs. Don't copy the programs in the class. Okay. If you're copying, you're not listening to my conversation. As simple. Even if you copy, you will not be able to copy more than 30%. I will not give that much time to copy. Right. Chalo, let's go to the next one. Please do not type the messages. Right. Statements. The topic name is statements. How to write basic statements. Right. Now, let us take the next example. Is a statement is a line amount. The statement is a line what we write in the program. Your company name, How many phones you need? What is the price? Discount. What is the total amount I have to pay? What is the total amount I have to pay? So this is my requirement. Now collect the data, specify the data type, collect the data, specify the data type. Collect the data, specify the data types, and start creating the logic. Start creating the logic. Somebody is asking. Yeah. So what is the data source we had? So we need to know name of the company, number of laptops, laptop price, number of phones, phone price, then laptop discount, phone discount, then we had total, phone total, this is how I have created. So what is the data involved? Now create the data types of this. Right. So what was that? Company. It is string. Number of laptops. Laptop price. Now a laptop price I gave 40,000.00. Number of phones. Phone price I gave 10,000. Then laptop discount. I have to make a calculation. Phone discount calculation. Phone total calculation. Price. Then who is going to provide the company name? We are supposed to provide the input. Then number of laptops should be given by the user. Laptop price given by you. number of phones given, phone price given, laptop discount. System will calculate. How it is going to calculate? 20% on laptop price into 20%. Now phone discount, system will calculate. What is that? Phone price, phone total into 10%. Then phone total, system will calculate. How the system is calculating? Phone price then laptop, system will do that. Then system will calculate. Now what is the data involved? What type of data is involved? Who is going to provide it? What is going to be calculated? Then write the code. So write the code for this. Write the code. Right. So let us take this one. String. Now if you are defining a variables, in which format the variable should be? Variable should be in the which format? Variable name should be in the form of lower camel. First word, first letter should be small. Remaining words, first letter should be capital. Number of laptops. Then we have taken this one. This is how we have created. Then create the remaining things. String will be within the single quotes. Number of phones 10. So we have made. Once you have made the above step, the all will be a simple one. We have phone price laptop discount. Laptop total into total we have. So total bill we are taking phone total. I hope you are good with this. Now we are making this calculation. First you need to understand what is the data, what is the calculation involved. Straight away we can make the program. This is not complex when you know this. This becomes complex without understanding this. If you try to write a program straight away, then the program becomes complex. I hope you are good with this. So first analyze the requirement, know what is the data involved, what type of data types you are taking, whether values are given by you, values are calculated by the system. You analyze it, then write a program. Things will be simple for you. Right? When you are new to the programming, this is how you are supposed to learn your programming. Right, boss? I hope you are good with this. Okay. Next, I hope everyone has followed this. Right, boss? Now, let us go to the next one. Somebody has asked me what is the definition of the statement. So, statement is an expression or a line in the program that performs some logic or action. Statement is an expression or a line in a program that performs some logic or an action. Right. That's what is called as statement is. Okay. Now, we need to understand scope. What is a scope? What is the purpose of the scope? I hope you are good with the first one. Statements are clear. Right. Everyone is comfortable with that. Right. Now, let us go to the scope. When it says scope, flower brackets are called scope. When I give flower bracket, it is called a scope. Scope is nothing but the flower bracket. Now, look at this. Look at this. If I give class, example, flower bracket. So, what was this? Scope of class. Scope of class, example. If I give interface, example, what is this? Scope of. When I give void show, what does it mean? Scope of method. If I give a flower bracket, it's a scope. If it is a class, class scope. Interface, interface scope. Method, method scope. Then if what is this? Scope of I wrote for scope of so all these indicate for is implementing this logic, if is implementing this logic, show is implementing this logic, the interface has this logic, class has this logic, right? So class scope. So this logic is related to this class, this logic is related to this interface, this logic is related to this method, logic is related to if, logic is related to for. That indicates a scope. Flower bracket indicates scope. Now wherever we write, the same meaning. What was this? Scope of if, scope of else. So flower bracket. For try I gave flower bracket. Scope of try. Scope of catch. I hope you are clear with this. Right? Scope, flower bracket if I write, before the flower bracket always there will be a name. Before the flower bracket always there will be a name. If or, for or, switch or, case or, okay, some name will be there. So this is a scope of that particular name. Now, how you call this scope? We call this scope with an example. How you call this scope? We call this scope with an example. How you call this scope? We call with a show. How you call this scope? If. How you call this scope? For. How you call this scope? If. How you call this scope? Else. How you call this scope? Try. How you call this one? Catch. Before flower bracket, okay, there will be a one word. So the flower bracket is the scope. The scope is called by that word. So whatever the word we wrote. So example scope, show scope, if scope, else scope, try scope, right? So flower bracket if I write, it is called scope. Flower bracket if I write, it is called scope. I hope you are good with this. Scope. So now within the scope will be, there can be a one line or a group of lines. When you want a group of lines to be wrapped under one name, when you want a group of statements to be wrapped under one name, when you want a group of statements to be wrapped under one line, under one name, we use the scope. When you want group of statements to be referred with one name, I will go for scope. Are you getting? If there is only one line, no issue. Straight away write the statement. Now there are a group of statements which has to run together. Group of statements which has to run together, then we call it as a scope. Are you getting my point? What will be there in the scope? Scope consists a group of statements. Group of statements. That is the purpose of the scope. Group of, okay, scope will wrap group of statements under one name. Group of statements under one name. Group of statements wrapped under one name, which is called scope. Right? As I told you, it can be a scope of a class, scope of a interface, scope of a method, scope of a if, else, for, or try, or catch. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? Right? So what is the meaning of scope? Group of statements wrapped under one name. Group of statements wrapped under one name, which is called scope. Okay. Now let us go to the next one. Local variables, global variables. Then next we have local variables, global variables. Global variables. What are these local variables? What are these global variables? Now, anything that we write within the scope, anything that we write, any variable defined within the scope is called local. Now there is a difference. Definition is difference. There is a difference between defining or using. Now, integer age. What was this? Declaring a variable. Age equal to 10. Variable or some logic. There is a difference between declaring a variable and using a variable. Now, local variable. Any variable declared within the scope. Any variable which is declared within the scope, or any variable which is defined in the scope. If you create any variable within the scope, it is called local variable. It is not used, it is created. Any variable you create within the scope is called local variable. Now, let me give you. Anybody know this Srinivas Nair boss? No? My colony president. Does anybody know him? No. So, he was known only within my colony. His influence is only within the colony, right? Within only the security guards or watchmen in the colony, he can speak and can show the influence. If you come out of my colony and say, I am Srinivas Nair, people will slap you. Right? So his influence is going to work only within the scope. What is the scope? Scope is my colony. Only within my colony, his scope will work. Outside the scope, nobody know that he is alive. Nobody know that he exists. Right? So any variable defined within the scope is called local. That is cannot be used outside the scope. Outside people doesn't know that the variable like this is existing. Any variable defined within the scope is called local variable. Any variable which is defined within the scope is called local variable. Outside the scope, we doesn't know that the variable exists. Now, KCR boss. Now he is known within my colony, outside my colony. He is known within my colony, outside my colony. Now who is this KCR? Global. Who is this Srinivas Nair? Now this KCR can be used outside the scope, inside the scope. Okay, Srinivas Nair can be used only within the scope. Outside the scope, people doesn't know that the variable exists. So any variable you define within the scope, is called local variable. It's a defined, not used. I'm not worried about whether you use or not. I'm not worried whether you are going to use or not. I'm saying if you define it within the scope, it is called local variable. I hope you are good with this. Okay. Let me create. Any variable defined within the scope is called local variable. Local variables can be used only within the scope where they are defined. Local variables cannot be accessed outside the scope. Global variables. Any variable defined outside the scope are called global variables. Global variables can be used within the scope global variables are used within the scope or outside the scope. Now look at this. If you take this example, what are local variables? City. Now age is used. Age is used, not defined. Where is that age defined? Outside. Where is the city? Okay, name defined? Outside. I told any variable defined, not used. Now these are used. Age equal to 40. It is used in the scope. It is not defined within the scope. Where is the variable defined? It is. Now I told it is a where you define is important. Where you use is not important for me. Now global variables, age, variables defined within the scope are called local. Variables defined outside the scope are called global. I hope you are good with this. So let us take one more example. This is my scope. Now I'll define outer and inner. Inner scope. For inner scope, tell me what are the local variables? For the scope, what are the local variables? Sem. Now branch is used, not defined. Where is the branch defined? Somewhere outside. Then what is the global variable? Global variables, roll number, marks, college name. Above this you have defined, right? So they are also called global, right? So roll number, marks, college name, branch. Outer scope. For outer scope, tell me what are the local variables? Local variables, college name. Now anything that is defined within this cannot be used outside. Anything that you define within this cannot be used outside. So sem and year is not visible outside. Only college name, branch. What is a global? roll number. I hope you have followed this. Right, Amma? Everybody is good with this? Variable defined within the scope are called local variables. Okay. Next. Now, this is what I wrote. Now tell me, we have show. For show, what is the name of the scope? The scope is given with the name called. For show, what are the local variables? Local variables, age, name, and so you defined here. They are also called local to show. Any variable defined within this or within this is called a local. For show, what are the local? Age, name, branch. What is the global? Also give. Global variables. What are the global variables? City. Now, variable defined in the call me, can I use here? You cannot, because it is a scope, right? Anything defined within the scope, any variable defined within the scope is only for that particular scope. Now, if I say call me, what is the local variable for call me? Only college. Global. What are global variables? City and I hope you are getting my point. Clear? Any variable defined within the scope is local. Any variable defined outside the scope is global. Any variable defined within the scope is called local. Any variable defined outside the scope is called global. I hope you are good with this. Clear for everyone? So, on the same concept only, your classes, methods, if else, for loop, everything will run. Right. Now, let me give you, I hope you are good with this. Clear? Let me give you one more example. Okay. Now, I'll do vice versa. Look at the point. Look at the point. I have two. Show. In the show, I have to use name, age, college. In the call me, I have to use name, age, phone. Look, I have to use name. Right. That is a different concept, boss. There is a overriding, local and this concept. We'll learn it later. There is a concept called this. We have to implement using a concept called this. Now here we have invoke name, age. Then I have, let us say, this is now I have three scopes: show, call me, invoke. In the show, I have to use name, age, college, branch. In the call me, I have to use, okay, name, age, phone, city. In the invoke, name, age, college name, fee. Now tell me how you define. Now the data which should be available to everyone should be defined. String name, integer age. Then I told void. Here I am giving. Chalo, forget about the void show. Give it as show right now. Right? Some scopes call show. Some bunch. Now here what I am doing? Integer or string college. Then I gave call me. Now my phone number 0401234. What is this format? Then I have invoke. Now we have string, college name, decimal. So when you are writing a program, first we need to understand which data is available. This data should be available to whom? Now when you are writing a statement, we have seen what is the data available, what is the data that is used. Out of this data, okay, this data should be used in which scope? How many scopes are there? For each scope, this data should be visible or not visible. Who can have this access? That we need to discuss. So understand the data, then show the visibility of the data to different scope. Is this data should be available to every scope? Then we have one format. No, this data should not be available to every scope. In which scope that should be available? Are you getting my point here? So what is this concept? Local and global. So if you want some data to be visible to everyone, define it as a global. No, if you want some data to be available for only a particular scope, define within the scope. Is that what's clear for everyone? Right? Got the concept of local and global? Right? Any other queries from your end? Is that what's clear? Right? Okay. Fine. So that's all from my end. Now, how you access your notes?